Okay, but for real this time. Long ago, in a different top 10 strongest video, I had mentioned how I wanted to talk about rocks, and then I never really went and did it. Now, however, today is the day where I can finally make a video that will be a lot of fun to make, because I can shoehorn the rock edits whenever I want, and no one's gonna question it. But before all these Dwayne Johnson edits, I'm gonna quickly mention that this video will have minimal mention of the word Stealth Rock, because every single one of the Pokemon in this video have access to Stealth Rock. If I bring it up, it's because it's actually important and not just saying, oh, it's an option. No, it's something that the Pokemon is actually good at doing. Alright now, let's get started for the long-awaited rock video. No Megas or Arceus Rock, of course. Also, Mismagius, Pokemon Crystal Clear Let's Play, and Wind Waker HD. Link will be in the description below. See what I did there? And because this is the video where I'm just gonna go bonkers, I also tried to do a Pokerap a while back, and I kinda butchered it. So, for the honorable mentions, this time we're going again. Hit the music. Tyrantrum, Lycanroc, Gigalith, DNC, Nilligo, Stakataka, Amistar, Credilli. That was actually kind of bad, man. Hey, I don't think that was actually all that bad. I'm having a good time. God, I love rocks. Now, Regirock is an absolute monolith. It's a force beyond human comprehension. Not even the world's greatest scientists are able to tell us how and why Regigigas managed to make a Pokemon that's so beautiful and refined. Look at the way that it's built. Only a master craftsman could have made a golem like this function. It's got the 5th highest physical defense stat in the game, or, well, it's tied for it with Steelix, and it uses this physical defense to the best of its abilities as it stands there and takes physical attacks like it's nothing. Anyone who tries to punch this guy is gonna look like Moro in his final fight with Goku. Fist broken and everything. And the level of sets you can play, all of which aren't exactly bad, is astonishing. It can run a curse setup strat, a weakness policy and rock polish set, an assault vest set, and even a support set with Sneaky Pebbles and Thunderwave.
And you go enjoy the Fruity Pebble.
It's not the greatest overall Pokemon, and the lack of a move like Recover is probably one of the few things holding it back. But hey, that isn't too bad. And of course, you can never truly one-shot Regirock, because it's too damn sturdy. A beautiful specimen and is very fun to use. Use Terra Water or Fairy on this if you want to win, and Terra Steel or Electric if you want to be funny. Iron Thorns is one of those Pokemon that you can't help but find a little goofy and a little quirky. I know it's a reference to Mecha Tyranitar from the hit Univen movie series that, if you haven't heard of, then you're living under a rock. But seriously, go play the Pokestar Studios side quest. They're like some of the best stuff about Pokemon Black and White 2. It being presumably a reference doesn't really change the fact that bro looks a little weird. Turning Tyranitar into a robot and getting rid of Sandstream and shaving off 30 of its base stat total just doesn't do it for me. But despite how much I can't say I like the guy, he's definitely packing a wallop. Cork Drive boosting its attack makes the booster energy set quite the menace. Setting up Dragon Dance and boosting your attack to astonishing levels, and having enough speed to actually outrun this actually turns it from a goofy looking movie ripoff to an actual threat that looks like it destroys whole teams and cities. Electric Stab, Stone Edge, and Ice Punch for attacking moves, alongside a Terra Flying to escape that ground weakness, and you'll be safely hitting with the force of a nuclear warhead. One of my favorite things I've done when teaching a buddy OU is slap this on a team at his request, and then one-shot every Gliscor we saw on the low ladder. Good times. Cleaver has the same depth to its gameplay as Hisui and Samurott, albeit is worse because it only really clicks its button once, while Samurott clicks its own button a billion times over and is rewarded 90% of the time. This Pokemon clicks Stone Axe, and then after that, it either dies or comes back later as a sack. Now don't get me wrong, This is very good and all, but typically you want your stealth rockers to be a little more sturdy nowadays. And from my personal experiences, Cleaver just is not that. Now, it's still a great Pokemon, or else it wouldn't be on this list. Stone Axe is phenomenal as threatening damage. Stealth Rock is inherently broken, and U-Turn makes him a really solid pivot. The issue with Cleaver is that it doesn't threaten much. Stone Axe isn't particularly spammable, and while it has nice coverage and a big attack stat, its speed and lack of useful immunities alongside its own Stealth Rock weakness really make its use limited. Not bad, obviously. For what it's good at, it's very good at, and it gives it a slot on teams. There's just other stuff that it tends to be bad at. Feel free to try to use Close Combat as a coverage move to hit steals, and Swords Dance if you want to mix something up. Recommended Terra? Don't Terra. This is my recommendation. Now, Volo knew what he was doing when he decided not to use Milotic and instead decided to use Hisuian Arcanine. Sure, one could argue it's because Feebas and Milotic were in the decks, but I would like to argue that this was a conscious decision made by not Game Freak, but Volo. He probably could have cheated and got one, but he didn't. Because he knew what he wanted on his team slot. He didn't want to play some cheap bulky water type. No. He wanted a Pokemon that was first and foremost a good, loyal boy who he could play fetch with when he wasn't plotting to rewrite history, and secondly, a Pokemon that used Flare Blitz, Wild Charge, and Rock Slide for lethal offensive coverage should anyone ever try to stop him. Now, there were no abilities in Arceus, but when the Hisuian Mons were transferred over and suddenly they did get abilities, whoo boy, did Hisuian Arcanine get some good ones. Rockhead letting it spam Flare Blitz, Wild Charge, and Head Smash with little consequence is something that I'm sure he's sad he missed out on. Yeah, Extreme Speed makes it a good revenge killer, and that's nice and all, but Extreme Speed isn't what I'm trying to use if I can help it. I want to use Banded Head Smash, Flare Blitz, and Wild Charge and send my opponent to one of the most cliche, garbage, horrendous genres in anime history with nothing but stale pro tags and fan service. Or, Choice Scarf if speed matters that much. That works too. He's a one-dimensional dog, sure, but he's a good one-dimensional dog. Recommended Terra? Either normal for E-Speed, fire for Flare Blitz, or rock for Head Smash. I mean, there are very few Pokemon that will ever be better than Tyranitar was back in its prime. And while it's fallen off nowadays in Generation 9, to the dismay of many, it's still Tyranitar. Not only is it T-Tar, it's a T-Tar that has Excadrill alongside it again thanks to Indigo Disc. This means that Tyranitar might just rise back up to at least UU alongside his good old buddy, and they can destroy the tier together. Now, what made Tyranitar so good? Well, it has a pretty solid array of stats outside of its questionable speed. Sandstream, as we all know, is an absolutely gorked ability, especially now that we have an actually good Sandrush abuser to work with, and not Lycanroc Dawn form. And of course, one of the most important things about Tyranitar is that it could quite literally play any set, and you were never truly sure what it was going to be. There was D-Dance Sweeper, Pursuit Trapper, T-Wave and Rock Support, Special Attacker, and probably some other stuff I was missing. Its sheer presence used to shape the tide of the battle. However, Tyranitar is a Pokemon that needs good partners, which in Generation 9, it just didn't have. Until now, because Excadrill is back. Sand is back. I'm excited. Finally, now all four weathers are good. Although rain and sun are still beyond broken. Recommended Terras? Don't. Save that for your weather sweeper. Terrakion might be one of the better offensive behemoths that have come out of the rock type. Rock and fighting is an incredibly potent combination, so expect Terrakion to be performing the rock bottom on Stone Cold Steve Austin in order to win WrestleMania, baby. And we aren't even taking into consideration that Terrakion has a formerly incredible but still respectable base 108 speed and 129 attack, which means that trying the switch in the Stone Edges and close combats from this lad will result in a hospital visit that may take several business days. After a swords dance, you're not staying in the hospital, you're staying in the cemetery. Rest in peace, by the way. Any fourth move that can run is just an option and not a necessity, but it'll probably be either Earthquake, Iron Head, or Poison Jab. What a monstrous behemoth. Recommended Terra? If you're me, you go all in with Terra fighting and just don't lose. Ogerpon Cornerstone is a Pokemon I can't quite look at with a straight face. It's just too silly and too goofy, until you read the lore. Well, normally I'm not gonna look at Grass and Rock and act like it's some sort of hit-taking defensive type combo. I'm gonna look at it for its offensive merits. Merit 1. This Pokemon has a Stone Edge that doesn't miss. Merit 2. This Pokemon's attacks have a 20% buff simply for existing. Merit 3. Swords Dance boosted Power Whip isn't something I exactly like switching into. This type combo, when played offensively with whatever fourth move slot you desire, like Play Rough or Knockoff, is actually really potent. And you can never one-shot it thanks to Sturdy, which means that it's always guaranteed to whack you in the head with its signature Cudgel. Now, of course, you could run the defensive Spikes Pivot set with U-Turn, Ivy Cudgel, and Spiky Shield, but running that is denying your weapon its purpose to bathe in the HP of your enemies. It's good, but it isn't cool. I have a weird dismay for how Glimmora is designed. I'm not gonna say there isn't counterplay, as there is plenty of counterplay. I just find Glimmora as a whole to be a rather atrocious creature. Toxic Debris is an inherently broken ability. The fact that in order to prevent T-Spikes from ever hitting your field, you have to not hit it with a physical attack, or only ever use Rapid Spin, and then accept the reality that, thanks to Sash, unless you have a taunt lead, rocks are guaranteed hitting the field is a painful reality to accept. Its game plan basically revolves around how many hazards it can get up, and even remotely poking it means that it's going to get those hazards up, which I am not fond of. But hey, it works. And this Pokemon is a staple on many teams for a reason. It provides support no other Pokemon can. Now, it has an offensive move pool and a base 130 special attack stat. So, outside of the obligatory Mortal Spin and Stealth Rock, you get to play Sludge Wave, Earth Power, Energy Ball, or Power Gem. But that special attack stat and those moves aren't why you play Glimmora, which I think is just unfortunate. Recommended Terra? Ghost if you really need those hazards up. The Indigo Disc DLC brought forth yet another level of power creep in exactly Iron Boulder. This guy is certainly something else. Alright? A base 124 speed was good enough, but because it's a Paradox Pokemon, that means you can play Booster Energy Quark Drive and now nothing with realism outspeeds you. This means that you can specifically modify your speed EVs to hit certain benchmarks, which means the rest of that goes into bulk that allows you to live more attacks, which in turn lets you set up Swords Dance easier, which in turn lets you use that base 120 attack and a protect bypassing Mighty Cleave to just cut through any and everything that would try to stand in your way. Swords Dance, your 2 stabs, and then whatever fourth move you want, and a Terra that complements your fourth move, and you're going to wind up being really good. Its sheer speed is gonna let it get away with a lot, and I imagine that Iron Boulder will be seeing a lot of use as a result. Sure, there are certain Pokemon like Dondozo that can wall it, but I don't imagine very much actually walling it efficiently outside of some oddly specific stuff. Truly an offensive monster. However, it's definitely not the greatest rock. It holds a silver medal in comparison to what is, in my opinion, the best rock ever made, if not the most annoying. Look, you can't tell me that this Pokemon is fun, or well designed, or anything like that. What we all can agree on is that this Pokemon is just the most powerful rock that Game Freak has ever produced. It simply existing makes me mad, angry, or some other word that is eluding me, because I could swear it's a synonym for mad. Garganicle's defenses are obscene, and it could take a hit from just about anything, barring oddly specific but incredibly powerful Pokemon. It can Terra into water, fairy, or ghost, and suddenly shed the billion rock weaknesses to become an actual wall. Salt Cure makes whittling down the opposition so easy that there was a period where people ran Covert Cloak just to beat it. Iron Defense, Recover, and Body Press round out its kit. And once your specially defensive Garg gets off even one Iron Defense, the nightmare begins. Why not status it with Toxic? Because Purifying Salt not only adds a ghost resist to it, but prevents it from being affected by any status. It's a dumb, stupid, idiot rock, and it's the best thing ever made. The fact that this ever dropped to UU was a fluke. It's an OU mon, and will be for quite some time.
Who's the man? Yeah, who's the people's champ?
Damn, I wanted to have fun with this one, but somewhere along the way, I got salty or something. I can't quite figure out where though. So I'm gonna end this off on another question. What's your favorite rock type?